Hi, guys. I hope you're doing well. I just noticed these glasses. Actually, I've noticed this all day, and I just can't find another pair, but they make me look a little bit like Groucho Marx. So I apologize if that is distracting to you. But the topic that I wanted to discuss with you guys and to hear from you guys about is actually not comedy at all. It's not a funny topic. It's actually a really serious topic. And I feel like for members of the Marketing Idea Exchange and other small business owners and leaders and marketers, it's critically important. And that is how to deal with customers who refuse to comply with the social distancing and other requirements that you as a business owner are implementing for a variety of reasons. You are probably implementing these things to keep yourself and your team safe. You are very likely implementing them in order to adhere to the requirements of your state, local, municipality rules and guidelines. So I want to hear from you. And while I have you think on a question, I am going to pull up my Facebook group just to make sure that I don't miss any of your questions or comments. Because like I say, I really want to hear from you guys and how you are handling it and how we can really think about this as a collective group to help get things started. So let me first just make sure that I am in our group. Hi, guys. I noticed that I got sort of a slow start. I think I was broadcasting to the Mix page rather than our group. And so if you're slow to join me or if I am slow to the party, then just let me know. But let me know that you are here and you're able to see me and to hear me. And you can also tell me how much on a scale of 0 to Groucho Marx, how much do these glasses just crack you up? Uh, but as I was saying before, the topic that we're talking about today is actually quite serious. So I don't mind if you get a chuckle out of my Groucho Marx glasses, if it puts a smile on your face, because the topic that I wanted to talk with you guys about today is actually quite serious. And that is how to handle when customers and people that interface with your business refuse to comply with your social distancing and other changes that you've made in your business. We are hearing a lot of stories about customers and it's hitting the news. Actually, we're hearing a lot about customers who fail to comply. And then a common scenario is either an employee or even another customer will say something to this person, encourage them, or question them, why are you not wearing a mask? And because the mask wearing issue has become so polarizing, and there's science here and there's science there, and there's politicians here and there's politicians there, and because it has become so complex and so complicated, people have very strong emotional ties to what is really, I mean, on the face of it, it's really just a mask. Just like when I get into my car, I actually hate wearing a seatbelt. And guess what? I have hated wearing a seatbelt every single time that I've done it for the past 30 years. but I do it for a couple of reasons, and I suppose these are personal reasons, and I suppose they compare in some ways to mask wearing. But this issue particularly is very, very emotionally charged for customers, for business owners, and so I wanted to talk today about ways to handle if an unfortunate incident occurs in your business or related to your business that has to do with someone failing to comply with the social distancing requirements that you've implemented in your business. So if you would, just weigh in the comment section. Let me know that you can hear me. Let me know you can see me. And I want to hear from you. I'm curious, what are the changes you've made to your business, and how are you communicating them to people who come in? And then finally, I'd like to hear from you about what is your plan if the unlikely but potentially really impactful incident takes place, that you have one of these incidents. So I'll share a couple that I know of while you're thinking about that, and while I'm waiting for you to weigh in. Let me know that you hear and see me, and let the group know just where you fall on this spectrum. Do you have changes and conditions in place in your business? If so, what are they, and why are they there? Is it just for the protection of you and your employees? Are you mandated by your city, your state? Where is all this coming from? So one particularly hot news item, I've seen several, but one that's on my mind is Trader Joe's just had a customer come in refusing to wear a mask. A manager approached them and asked to talk to her, offered her a mask, explained. Really, in my view, this Trader Joe's employee took all the right measures, and someone started filming it, as is to be expected in the time that we live in. And the customer grew absolutely irate. And she was interviewed later on the news. It was a big blow up, and it caused the customer a lot of discomfort, and obviously Trader Joe's some embarrassment. That's not the only example. There's a story going around now, and I'll post the links to these stories in the comments section below in a little bit. There's a story going around now about a Starbucks employee who asked, I believe that this young man refused to serve someone because that's what he had been told was a requirement of his job. He refused to serve a customer who was not wearing a mask. And she, as a result, took his picture, posted it along with his name, and went about shaming him on social media. Now, people rallied to support this young man and started a GoFundMe campaign. They called it an online tip jar. So I don't think we're near the end of hearing about these really high visibility stories. And so I just want to talk, how would you handle that? So while we noodle on that, if you will, I thought I would tell you some things that I have learned, just from all of the different businesses that I have been involved with over the years. I've had an opportunity to talk through the communications planning for many, many, many entrepreneurial businesses. And so rule number one that I have learned through that experience is to stay calm and not react. It's impossible to know what's behind every rude customer's thinking. Like, what puts you in this place that you're going to come in and get so irate because you were asked to follow our mask rule, which is so clearly communicated? What's got you so irate and angry? So since we can't know that, what we can predict is it's very, very likely that this person, because they are communicating at you at such a heightened level of emotion, that if you try to meet them there, if you try to rise to that same level of emotion, then there's no way to go but up. There's no way to go but escalating it. And so that is a real losing proposition. So it's natural to want to attack back, but it's really important that you and your team do the very best you can to remain calm. And while it is a natural defense mechanism to bite back, rude customers actually they challenge an employee or business owner's sense of dignity and respect, and so it's natural for us to want to bite back. But instead, it's really important that we avoid, where we can, fighting fire with fire, because we're going to risk inflating that situation further. So something as simple as just taking some deep breaths, take a beat, and it's going to give you some vital seconds. It's going to buy you a little time to gather your thoughts and avoid retaliation. Because what's going to happen is, if you, as the employee or the business owner, come at that bite back, as much as it's like, wait a minute, I didn't start this. And as much as that may be correct and true, you could end up being viewed as the aggressor. So staying calm is going to help you stay alert to your customer's behavior, because remember, while it's unlikely, and we certainly want to do everything that we can to avoid it, there are important considerations for our safety that we have to keep in mind. So when someone is coming at us with heavy, heavy emotion, it's really important to remain calm, be very aware of their behavior, try to take in as much as we can, and their behavior may deteriorate, whatever your response is. So if that happens, it may be time to just step away and ask a colleague to help. Remember, of course, sometimes these interactions take place over email or social media, where customers, we've all got keyboard warriors. They may be even more hostile or aggressive. But again, rule number one is to resist that temptation to fire it back, to give them a taste of their own medicine. Because if you think about it, you are in the business. You are in the entrepreneurial leader business. You are in the marketing business. They are more likely in the bullying business. They are more likely in the fight it out business. They are more likely better at yelling and screaming and fighting than you, because they probably practice it. Yours is not the first business that they've gone into and made a huge scene. So don't try to meet them toe to toe. Instead, remain calm. And the easiest way to remain calm, of course, is to not take it personally. This isn't about you. The chances are that your customer is angry. And so one of the most important tips that I would offer to you is to try to separate whether this customer is just rude or if they are angry. Well, what's the difference? So a rude customer is just someone who is going to say something insulting. They are out with a chip on their shoulder, and they are looking for someone to spew their rudeness at. They have a hardness inside of them that, unless you are a psychologist, it is not your job to figure out, but they need to spew that onto someone. They are rude. An angry customer probably has an issue. It could be that your team failed to deliver. It could be that your changes, maybe you've made changes like they have to stop by the hand washing station before they are able to proceed to your counter. I don't know, but it could be that you really probably should have done a better job of communicating it. So if they're angry, then you really need to find the root cause of that problem. If they are rude, then you are not going to be able to solve that problem. Does that make sense? So angry has a cause. Angry has something behind it. And if you were the nexus of that anger, if something that you or your team did started that anger, then now that's a problem you can solve. And you can actually, if you're really, really careful, you may even be able to turn that into a positive. If, on the other hand, you're dealing with someone who is rude, then I think it's really important to wrap it up and diffuse it and get them on their way as quickly as possible. So, how do you figure that out? Well, they very often look a lot alike, right? Isn't that your experience? So, I think the third thing that I would recommend is to listen. And if it's appropriate, then you can apologize. So you need to actively listen. Let them know, I do hear you. No matter how unreasonable they sound, you need to demonstrate through your physical demeanor and saying phrases like, so it sounds like you're saying blank, or what I'm hearing is, and repeating back to them what your understanding of the issue is. Again, be aware of your body language during the conversation. Now, I don't mean to be, but I'm a grinner. I tend to when I am nervous, particularly. In fact, when I am nervous, I'm rather embarrassed. But when I am nervous, sometimes I will giggle, which is really sort of strange. But I have to watch very carefully if I am interacting with a perturbed customer, then I have to watch very carefully that I don't come across with a grin or a giggle, because that may seem not only tone deaf and insensitive, but I may be coming across as a smarty pants or sarcastic. And so it's really important that you're very tuned in, dialed into your body language. Make sure you relax your shoulders, you lean in and listen, and you have a look on your face that demonstrates I'm listening and I'm on your side for as long as I can be on your side, and I'm going to try to work this out with you. So actively listen, and then if it's appropriate for you to do so, try to find a middle ground, right? But it is also important for you to stand firm. Sometimes you'll need to be a little more assertive to get your message across. And if the customer keeps repeating the same points or trying to prevent you from getting a word in, now you'll have to eventually respond. And I would encourage you to do so really clearly and really confidently. And that's why it's important to have your thoughts together so that you can make really lucid, really meaningful, and really clear statements that you don't mind standing behind. So back to the Trader Joe's news article. So the Trader Joe's, there were employees involved, and a lot of this is being filmed by other customers in the store on social media. Now, a similar news story took place, and it happened in Costco. And by the way, I have shopped at my local Costco and my local Trader Joe's, and it has been my experience that they do an above average and excellent job of communicating what their social distancing requirements are. So it's not a lack of communication, which would probably be the first thing to avoid this type of situation. It's really just that customer's refusal, for whatever reason, to adhere to the standard. So, I want to share with you what the employee who was being filmed did to handle it. So the customer had refused to wear a mask in Costco and started filming themselves. And they're filming, I don't remember exactly the words, but they were filming themselves, and they say, "Hi, I'm Cindy and I'm in the Costco, and this guy right here is refusing to serve me. He's telling me I have to leave because I won't wear a mask." And then they turn the camera on the employee. And I was so impressed because the employee says to the camera, "Hey guys, I am doing my job. And as part of my job, I am required to follow social distancing rules." And he was calm and he was confident, and he absolutely diffused the situation, even though a lot of people would panic realizing that, oh my gosh, this lady's filming me on my job right here in the middle of Costco. So I just think it's really important to go ahead and proactively think through what your response will be, have a couple of talking points. Lisa Little makes the point, and you're so right, Lisa. People just want to know you are listening. You're absolutely right. And of course, Lisa is known for being a really compassionate and empathetic business owner. But that's true. I think people just want to know, I do see you. I do understand your position. And so I guess the final thing that I would say is, first of all, attempt to solve the problem, right? So if they're angry that maybe you didn't adequately, or their view is that you didn't adequately communicate that they had to do X before Y, then you can apologize for that. You can thank them for bringing that to your attention and let them know moving forward, we'll do a better job. Now, how can we help you? So you can solve the problem, but most importantly, make sure that you have a plan in mind and you've prepared for what will happen if it goes terribly, terribly wrong. And the best way to disarm a rude customer is to involve them in solving the problem. That's whatever is fueling their behavior, whatever they have used. As rude people are always just looking for any one thing to serve as a little spark for them to be rude, almost like an excuse. So you can ask them, what do they think would be an acceptable solution? That way you have something concrete to work toward. Now, if they say something that doesn't align with your values or doesn't align with the requirements of your city or state or whatever, or just otherwise doesn't fit, then you can let them know, you know what, I'm not sure that we can get all the way there, but I am going to consider that. Just let them know that you hear them. And the truth is, there may not be an easy answer to the customer's problem. So during times of crisis, like what we're in right now, people are going to try to push for responses that simply aren't possible. And they're going to ask for answers that you may not have. And so I would just encourage you to acknowledge the difficulty of the situation and explain your position clearly, but stick to it. Because at the end of the day, you have spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears building a brand that you intend to be a part of for the long term. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me just take a look and make sure that I don't have any questions or comments. But and so I would just encourage. That's going to be echoey. I apologize. But listen, this is a stressful time, and encountering a rude customer is a really stressful experience. So if it happens, hopefully this conversation today will help you at least be forearmed, because you've been forewarned. It's very, very common. I think its occurrence is going to increase rather than decrease. I think this rude customer encounter and customers who feel like they're taking some sort of stand by refusing to adhere, I think it's going to increase. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I hope I'm wrong. But it is really, really stressful. So if it happens, first, obviously, be prepared. And then secondly, give yourself or the member of your team who has experienced it some time to debrief. Give yourself an opportunity to step away and gain some perspective, because the truth is you may have a lesson to be learned as part of all of this. And then you may need to report that incident. So I would be absolutely certain that I documented it. And so when something like this happens, we tend to think, oh, this is also vivid in my mind. I am absolutely not going to forget any detail of this. But for anyone who has been in a crisis communications situation, you do forget the details. So after it, I would really encourage you to document the situation, because you don't know what will come next. You aren't sure if this person, hopefully, if you have diffused it properly, hopefully you'll be able to offset any kind of a social media backlash or maybe a traditional media backlash. Hopefully you'll be able to avoid that. But just in case, make sure that you write down, here's what happens. happened, here's what was said, and just have a record, even if it never goes anywhere and it's completely confidential only to you. Make sure that you jot down some notes afterwards. All right. So that's really the thoughts that I wanted to share with you guys today. And now I want to hear from you. So whether you're watching this live or watching the replay, be sure that you share and comment below and let us know what's going on with you, not only as a business owner and marketer and leader, but also as a customer. Just the other day, I'll share with you, and I think I actually shared this with some of you guys the other day, but it's really stuck with me. I was flying. I was in an airplane, and of course I had my mask on, but I took my mask off to take a drink. And I noticed that the lady beside of me was very clearly agitated, and I had no idea. I had no idea, but I could tell something about me was making her super uncomfortable. And it took me longer than I am really proud to admit. It took me a long time to put it together. Oh, duh, I'm not wearing a mask. And so it's funny how all of us, whether your customers will admit it to themselves or not, this is a very disorienting experience that we're all going through. And so we may be on one or another end of this. And I thought to myself, wow, what if this lady next to me had decided to whip out her phone and start shaming me, because at that particular moment, I really wasn't adhering to any rules. I had taken off my mask to take a drink, and I just sort of forgotten. So we can be on both sides of things. And I was grateful that she didn't she didn't make an example out of me. But she could have. We never know when, we're never going to know when we're going to encounter something like that. So I've given a lot of thought to what would I have done. And I would encourage you to do the same. Give some thought to how you would handle it. And I'm going to drop a couple of links to those news stories and encourage you to share if you hear that as well, because I think this is something that we need to be mindful of moving forward. So thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you for being a part of the Marketing Idea Exchange. Thank you for being a part of our free group. I wish you peace and health and sanity, and I'll see you guys soon.